Sean O'Malley has a fight coming up with Song Yadong just about 2 weeks away, just under. Um, and this fight has really, really big implications for the UFC bantamweight division. You know, Sean O'Malley's win that got him to the title fight was that win over Petr Yan. And that fight was, of course, really close. A lot of people argued, including myself, that Sean O'Malley did not win that fight. I really don't think he did. However, it was still very close all the same. So Petr Yan, as of recent at least, has looked unstoppable. He just beat the piss out of Merab Dvalishvili, who had looked unbeatable until that fight. He was dominating everyone, Sean O'Malley, Umar, Sean O'Malley beforehand. He was dominating everyone he had fought. Petr Yan goes in there, dominates him. I do think that Sean O'Malley in that division has the best shot to beat Petr Yan, just stylistically, right? Obviously you're going to need elite striking to beat Petr Yan. And a lot of people don't want to give Sean O'Malley credit. They don't like him, whatever it may be. Thinking, oh, he's not good. He has elite striking. He has the second best striking in that division. And there's a big gap after them, too, in my opinion. Sean O'Malley can be the guy who can get closest, at least, or possibly beat Petr Yan. As well as the fact he has the biggest name in that division. With this fight coming up against Song Yadong, this is completely make or break for his career. I do genuinely believe if he loses to Song Yadong, he may retire. But then if he beats Song Yadong, he's right there for a title shot. And, looking into that fight with Song Yadong and Sean O'Malley, I think it's pretty easy to determine what's going to happen. I think Sean O'Malley's going to beat up Song Yadong very bad. I don't think Song Yadong's going to have anything for him. I know I talked about this in my full card breakdown. I don't think Song Yadong's going to have anything for him. I don't think he's going to get inside range and get in tight, close boxing range with Sean O'Malley. I think Sean O'Malley's going to skirt the outside like he does best. I think he's going to use his range to piece apart Song Yadong like he tries to do with everyone else, like he did partially with Petr Yan. I think, I don't think that fight's going to be close. I can see Sean O'Malley finishing him. And especially if he finishes him, I think the UFC may, I don't want to say rush, but they're going to make that fight happen. They're going to have Sean O'Malley fight Petr Yan, likely maybe like the White House or something. Sean O'Malley objectively is a big name in the sport. And if he can get close, even somewhat close to a title fight with Petr Yan, they're going to push for that. Petr Yan's last loss that he hasn't avenged is Sean O'Malley. He had just beaten Merab, who was his loss before that. It was another fight where there's a lot of questions. He had an injury, and he came this time without an injury and beat up Merab. And that first fight with Sean O'Malley, like I mentioned previously, he arguably did not lose that fight. He got the wrong way of a split decision, and things happen. I think they'll definitely push for that rematch to happen. But that's why this fight with Sean O'Malley and Song Yadong is so big when it comes to implications for the future of the UFC, especially this year. Like I was saying, Sean O'Malley is objectively a star of the sport. I'd put him up there easily in the top 10 biggest names. And maybe as of recent, he's kind of fallen out of people's spotlight, but he's still up there. When you hear Sean O'Malley, you get excited. It's just objectively what happens. You maybe not like the guy, but he's objectively entertaining. He's got a big personality, and I think he's become more likable as of recent. He's humbled out a bit, and he's gotten more likable. I don't think if you were to put Sean O'Malley in there against Merab Dvalishvili, I don't think if they fought a third time, I don't think Sean O'Malley beats him. And, so I guess it's good for Sean O'Malley that Petr Yan beat Merab because they have that history where Sean has a win over him. I do think when it comes to that bantamweight division, I think that, Sean O'Malley objectively has the best chance to beat Petr Yan. I think he has the second best striking division. I think Petr Yan has the best striking in the division. I don't think it's close. I think Petr Yan also likely has the best striking in the entire sport. When it comes to all aspects of it, he's got to be the best. Power, accuracy, timing, speed, the ability to mix up strikes, kicks, punches, clinch work, and then as well as his takedown defense. Not that Sean O'Malley is going to shoot takedowns, but then Sean O'Malley has some things that Petr Yan doesn't have, Petr Yan works well with, determining range and stuff, but Sean O'Malley has that size over him. I think Sean O'Malley might be like 5 inches taller than him, if I'm not mistaken. He is 4 inches taller than him, a solid 4 inches taller than him. That matters. I think if Sean O'Malley, especially if he gets a dominant win over Song Yadong, I think they're going to push to get him up there. They want that. The UFC objectively wants American fighters, at least some, on top of the division. It goes well with the American audience, who is the majority of the audience. I think looking, like I said, at that Song Yadong fight, I really don't think it's going to be close. I think Sean O'Malley goes out there first round, kind of pieces them apart, chews up the leg. Song Yadong is very susceptible to leg kicks. He has that very heavy stance. Sean O'Malley goes out there, pieces apart his legs. Second round comes out there, body work, piecing apart his legs. And I think late in the second round, he finishes Song Yadong. I know Song Yadong is very good. I just don't think it's going to be competitive. I don't think that Song Yadong has the best style to beat a guy like Sean O'Malley. I think Sean O'Malley has the perfect style to beat a guy like Song Yadong. And I think Sean O'Malley also has a somewhat good, or the best, not saying he would, I think he has the best style to beat a guy like Petr Yan, where he's not going to have to force takedowns to win the fight. He can strike with him. Not that Sean O'Malley is a better striker, but he can absolutely strike with Petr Yan using his range. And he does have solid power. He's really good counters and good timing. And timing and precision is what gets finishes, not power. Ilia Topuria has a lot of power. And yes, you can get finishes with power and stuff. But Alex Pereira, he makes it look easy when he knocks people out. He's not winding up to get the knockout. It's just perfect timing, perfect speed, perfect precision. And that's really what knockouts. And I think Sean O'Malley has more of that. He has that precision and timing, and that's what gets knockout. I think he can absolutely have another competitive fight with Petr Yan. We saw it in the first time. He had a competitive fight. I'm not saying he'll win, but I think when it comes to the chance to beat someone, I think Sean O'Malley has the best in the division. I think getting in there, he has to win this fight, though. Like I said, if he doesn't win this fight, he's going to retire. And that's just the truth. Maybe he'll have one more, super fight or something. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know. There aren't many other options for him if he loses his fight. This is make or break for him. Obviously he's good. He's set for his life. He has enough money. He has enough sponsors, all that. He's good for his life. But when it comes to actual fighting in the sport anymore, I think this is it for him if he doesn't win this. So this is a must-win situation. And it's also a situation where it's a must-win, but he also, if he wins, he's right there for the title shot, and they're going to give him that. I'm really stoked for this card. This fight just got moved up to the co-main with Kayla Harrison, unfortunately having to pull out. I hope she gets better. But, this card is still just as good. Sean O'Malley in the co-main is great to kick off the year with a fight with massive title implications. But, yeah, I'm stoked for this fight. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a good one. Peace.